Now we're going to use Tkinter, and I will show you how you can actually integrate it with the ChatGPT API. Okay, so the next project we're going to do today, which is going to be a simple project, okay, we're going to create a translator application. And actually, you're going to be able to add as many languages as you like, okay? So if you know other language than English, okay, that is not in the application, you will still be able to add it, and you can have your own version of a translation application, and you will see how easy it is to build one when you are using artificial intelligence and the ChatGPT API. Okay? Now, those of you that are using computers from the university, lab computers, please create a new PyCharm project and make sure it is in the J folder, in the J disk. Okay? That way you can execute and we don't need to move it around. The rest of you that are using their own laptops, just create a new PyCharm project, and from there we will start creating the application using Tkinter. Alright, so before starting, I'm just going to tell you a few words for a Tkinter. So the Tkinter is the most simple and basic application, or actually framework, with which you can build a desktop application with a very easy to use user interface. It is built in any Python distribution, which means that you don't need to install anything. Even at my work, I'm using very often Tkinter because it is very easy to build applications for people that don't know what programming is. Sometimes, if you're dealing with a person, let's say, from mechanical engineering team, electrical engineering team, or anything else, sometimes they will tell you, okay, can you make me a Python script to do this? And you can do it. But they will need to run the script, right? They will need to see the code. So if you want to avoid this, you can just link your code to Tkinter. You can create a few fields and buttons, and that way they don't need to see the code. They don't need to interact with the code. They just need to click a button, and then the functionality is going to be there. Okay? So this is not something that people just use for teaching or in the universities to show people how to build applications. It is actually something very easy to use, okay, and very quick to use if you want to build apps with Python, okay? So in this project, I'm going to show you how you can add Python backend functionality using the Tkinter frontend. We're going to integrate them together, okay? And also, the front and the backend, in this case, are going to be all as a Python file, okay? So the design of your application is not going to be in an HTML file, right? It is going to be a Python code. So other than this, another thing that we're going to do is integrating Microsoft Office with our application. So the idea is you click a button, you select a Microsoft Office document, then you read the document in your backend, and you display the translation in another field. Pretty simple. In order to be able to open Microsoft Word files, obviously you need Microsoft Word package inside Python in order to do that. So I will show you how you can use it as well. So we're going to use those two libraries, okay? We can use Python docx in order to access Microsoft Word, and in case sometimes you want to actually access Outlook, you can use the Win32com library, which is giving you access to the Windows API. Just bear in mind that this library can only be used for Windows, you cannot use it for Mac OS, okay? But we're not going to do that today. We're going to focus on Microsoft Word. Okay, and just so you can understand what we're building before we start building it, this is how the application is going to look like. Pretty simple. You're going to have over there a drop-down menu with the languages. You're going to have a browse button. When you click the button, you select a Word file, okay, and you're going to get the translation in this field below on the language that you selected from the drop-down menu. Okay? Now, the application, of course, can be improved. You can add different buttons. You can also add support for PDF, for text files. That's completely possible. You can improve the dimensions and so on. But here I will show you the basic concept on how you can build it. Alright, so I'm also going to create a new project. So let's do new project. I will name it however I like, Word Translate in this case. Let's display it in this window. And here is our new project. Okay, so the interesting thing here is, as I said, you need only one file, actually two plus the configuration file, right? So let's do that. I'll create a Python file, okay, and I'll call it app, and another one that I will call config. Okay, so let's first sort the basics. So in the config file, I'm just going to put the API key, right? Just like we do for every project, as you can see right here. And then in the app UI, I'm going to add the OpenAI, Tkinter, so I'm going to do all the imports. So let's do from OpenAI import OpenAI. I will also install OpenAI, so I open here the terminal and I will do pipe install OpenAI. Okay, I will also import docx. I will import Tkinter as tk. I will also, from Tkinter, I will import file dialog. This function will actually help us to select a file from our folders. And also, I'm going to import the config. Okay. Then I will do client equals OpenAI. Okay, and I will select the API key to be equal to config.api key. I will also import docx. So when you import docx, you need to import not just docx, but Python docx. I mean when you install it. Okay, so here down there you can write pipe install python-docx. I'll write it in the board. Okay. I mean, I don't know how much you can see on the board here, but okay, guys. So once your libraries are on their place, then we can actually start with the front-end part of our application. I would advise you always when you do application, just like how I gave it in your assignment, start with the front end so you can see the display of everything, okay? And after that, add the functionality on the back end. This is how I would build a desktop application. So let's do that. Now, the first thing you need to do when you create a Tkinter application, okay, is to write. So I'll create a root, and this will be our reference to our app. So I will do tk.tk, right? So I will create a new instance of an Tkinter application. And then I will use this root variable to add everything into our window. Pretty simple. Let's do root.title text translator. Then I will do root.configure, and the background will be set to white. Okay, then I'm gonna design the header font, so I will do header font equals to Open Sans 16, and I will do bold. Okay, so our font will be bold. Okay, then I will write header equals to tk dot label. Okay, and now I will add the name of our application, so I will display it inside the window. Okay, so I will do root, then I will do text equals to text translator. The background will be again white, and then the font will be our header font right here. Okay, we want to reuse that, so that's why we have it as a separate variable. Okay, one thing you can do for now after you do this is to actually execute the application. So you can run your application by this root dot main whoop. Okay, so this is the starting point of your code. Okay, so if I run that, you can see that a new window will appear that is called text translator. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Obviously we can resize it, etc., etc. So pretty much we have the starting point of our app. Now let's start adding elements to the application. So I will do header dot grid, and first of all I will just add some space. So I will do row equals to 0, column equal to 0, column span 2, and then padding at y 20. Okay, this means that I want to put the header at position 0, so at row 0, column 0, okay, and I want to give them span of 2 spaces. Okay, next let's create a button. Let's do browse button. Okay, and you can create a button on your application by writing tk button and then the name of your application object, which is root. Okay, so then here I'll write text browse, which means that in the button we'll have the text browse. Okay, and also you can add the command browse file. Okay, so what the browse file is? The browse file is the function with which you will be able to browse a file, and this is a function that we will create. Okay, so I will simply create it just here in the beginning. I will simply do def browse file. Okay, and I will do here pass. Okay, we're going to implement this function a little bit later. This is command. Okay, so what happens here is that what we always want when we create a button, and actually this is something that is going to be a key part of when you're building your project. So how you're going to do it is always you're going to create a button and you're going to link this button to a Python function. Once the user clicks the button, the Python function starts executing. This is the idea. Okay? Okay. So now, the next thing that I'm going to do is to add some attributes to the button, right? So Let's do that. So let's do browse button dot config. Okay, and here I'm going to add the font of the button, so how it's going to look like. So I can do Arial 12, and then I can do it again bold. I can set parameters like width and also height. After that, in order to be able to display the button on your screen, you need to specify on which row and column you want to see the button, right? So let's do browse button dot grid. Okay, and here I'm going to add row equals to 1, column equals to 0, padding at position X is going to be 20, and then padding at position Y is going to be 20. Padding is just some space that we add between the button and the rest of the elements, so the button can be separated from them. Okay? And you can see that once I run the application, now there is a button, right? You can see it right here. And if I click it, obviously nothing happens. Okay? However, in our function that we browse a file, if I write here print 1, 2, 3, okay, and I click now the button, you can see that down here I print 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're going to use that when we want to implement our app. Okay, now once we have the button, let's create the next field, which is going to be our drop-down menu. Okay, so to do a drop-down menu, firstly you will need to create a list. So I'm gonna do languages equal, okay, and here you can add the list of the languages that you want your application to use when we translate things. Okay, so you can add the same like I do, or you can add completely different languages. It's entirely up to you. So what I will add is, first of all, my homeland language, Bulgarian. Okay, I will also add Hindi. I will add Spanish, and then I will add French. Any other language that you want me to add? Which one? Wait, I will get a little bit closer. Telugu. How it's called?
T-E-L-U-G-U.
T-L-G-U.
T-E-L-U-G-U.
T-E-L-U-G-U. T-E-L-U. T-E-L-U-G. Like this? Okay. So our app will be able to translate to that language as well. Any other languages? Which one? T. Oh, 1 second. T. T-A-M-I-L. Like this? Okay, perfect. Any other? Okay. Any other? There? You want something? Okay. All right. Great. So those are our languages. As I said, you can add as many as you like. Okay. So now I'm going to create a new variable that will be called language variable. Okay, language var will be equal to tk dot string variable root. Okay, so I'll create a new string variable using tk. So okay, let's do now language variable dot set languages 0. Okay, so in those two lines we just specify what is going to be the initial language displayed in our drop-down menu. Okay, so now since I set it to 0, it's going to be Bulgarian. Yeah, If I set it to 2, it's going to be Spanish, right? Who said Hindi? No, it's Spanish because we start from 0. So 0, 1, 2, right? Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is actually implement our menu so it's displayed in the screen, right? So let's do that. I will do language menu, okay, will be equal to tk dot option menu. So with the option menu class from Tkinter, you can create menu with options, okay? So I will set it to our application, and then I will add a language variable and the languages, okay? So let's implement it first, and then I will explain you how this works. So now I'll write languages menu dot config. Okay, the font will be Arial 20. Arial 12. And then I'll add some width. So the width will be 10. Okay. So we configured it. And then let's add it to our application. So I will do languages or language menu dot grid. And now I will again specify where is this going to be displayed. So I want it on row 1, column 1. And I will also add some padding. Okay. Alright, now let's see if this is going to work. So you can see that this works now, right? We have the button and we have our menu. And if I click on it, obviously you can see plenty of languages. Guys, so now once we created this button right here, alright, the next thing I want to do is I want to add a text field. Right, so I will do text field dot text field equals to tk dot text, and then I will again add here the root. I will add a height of 20 blocks, width of 50, and then I will set some additional parameters. So the background, I will make it white, the foreground is going to be black, then border width, border width is going to be equal to 2, and then I will make it to wrap all the words that it's shown so it doesn't cut them. So I will do words. Okay, so then I will add this field. So I will do text field dot grid, and I will display it in row 2, column 0. The column span will be again 2, and I will add some padding at X and the Y directions. Okay. And finally I will add those statements right here. So I will do text field dot grid underscore row configure 0 weight 1, then text field dot grid column configure index 0 weight 1. Okay, then let's do root dot row configure, wait, one, root dot column configure 0, wait 1, and root dot column configure 1, weight 1. Okay, so all the columns will have the same weight when they are displayed. All right. So let's stop it and run it again. All right. So you can see that once I added this code, now we have exactly the application of the picture. So we have the browse button, we have the languages, and also we have the field. Okay, so we're pretty much done with the front end. Actually, let me move it here. Okay, this is what's supposed to be displayed on our screen. So the next thing that we will need to add is obviously the backend. So what happens when we click the browse button? Right, some functions get activated. Eventually we want to open a Word file and to connect with the ChatGPT API, right? So how do we do that? Now, I'll go here into the browse file function and I will actually write a very simple script on opening a Word file. Okay, so especially those of you that has anything to do with Word files, here pay a very good attention. So here I will do file location will be equal to file dialog dot ask open file name. Okay, so the file dialog is a Tkinter function, and this one has the function ask open file dialog, which does exactly what it says. It asks the user if they want to open a file dialog. Now here you can specify many things. So for example, I can specify the initial directory, and if I put this marker, the initial directory will be the root directory of my computer. I can also specify a title of the window from where I can select a file. So I can do title equal to select file. Okay. And then I'll write file types. Hello. Yeah, come in. Are you for the AI class, ChatGPT API? Or is it a different one? Oh, no problem. Can I help you in some way? Or? All right. Okay, so as I was saying, here you can specify what files the user will be allowed to open. Okay, so on file types here I will write Word files, comma, and you can write here star docx. Okay. Then I can also create another filter. So let's say I can do all files. Okay, and if the user select this option, okay, they will be able to open every file. Okay, so if the user selects a file, so I will do if file location. Now, what we want to do if the user selects a file? Obviously, we want to translate the file. Okay, so how do we do that? First of all, we need to get the target language. Okay, so obviously, imagine the user selects the language, they click the button, they get to this function, okay, and now they can select a file. They select the file, they press the OK button, right? So once they do that, the first thing we want to do is to get the language that they selected. Here's how you can do that with Tkinter. Target language equals to the language variable that we selected in the front end, okay, dot get. And now we go to the target language. Okay, so if the user selected Spanish, here this variable is going to be equal to Spanish. Okay. Now let's select the target text. Okay, so actually translated text. Okay. Now, in order, so pay attention here. In order for us to be able to translate a text, what are the two elements of our code that we need? So in order to translate a text, the first thing you need is a language on which you are going to translate, right? Do you agree on that? The second thing that you need is obviously the text that you are going to be translating. Okay, so this means that our translated text, we should create some function that takes as an input the language on which we want to translate and also the text which we want to translate, right? So let's do that. Let's call this function translate text, and in this function I'll add the file location. So the word file is analyzed, the text from there, okay, and then the target language. Okay, so now we have the text and we have the language, and this function is going to do the translation. And let's create a function. So I'll do def translate text. Okay, and here is a function, and obviously here we'll be expecting those two parameters, file location and target language. So once our text goes through the function and it gets translated, okay, this text here will be our translated text to whatever language we translated. So what we want to do is, first of all, I want to delete the text field. Okay, once this is done, so I want to delete anything that is inside the text field in our app, tk.end. This is how you can delete things from a Tkinter field. Okay, and once I do that, I want to insert the new text into our field. So let's do text field dot insert, and then I will do tk.end, and then I will add the translated text. Okay, so just to sum up the idea of the browse file function. Firstly, with this line here, we browse a file. Okay, if a file is selected, then we get the target language, we translate the text from the file with the target language, we delete wherever was in the field that displays text. So if it was other text there, we're gonna delete it, and we're gonna display there the translated text. Okay, now if I run our application, okay, if I click now the browse button, you can see that now I'm able to select files, right? So let's say if I go to professor stuff, okay, let's say if I want to translate this file and I click open, of course nothing will happen, right? my application will return an error, okay? And this is because this function didn't return anything, right? So we got the file, we got to this point, but as you can see right here, we were not able to insert any text because this function doesn't return anything, it returns none. So we need to implement it. And obviously, as you can imagine, in this function, we're actually going to implement the ChatGPT API. Okay, so now it's coming the final step, and this is where we're putting the AI into the game. Okay, so now we got the translation language, we got the text, now we want the AI to do all the work for us. Here is how it's done. And actually this is no different than any other application that we've already done. So, first of all, what I will do here is I will do a doc equals to docx dot document, and then I will put here the file location, okay? So in the previous function, I got the file location, and in this function, I'm going to use the file location to get the word document, okay? Now, after that, I'm going to create a new variable called text, and this will be an empty string. And then, here is how you can access the data from the Word file, okay? So, firstly, let's do for paragraph in doc.paragraphs text plus equals paragraph.text, okay? So, here's how it's done. For example, here, guys, when you use a Word document, it is, I guess, broken into many paragraphs, right? For example, here you have just one paragraph, as I can see, right? You probably have other set of you also have one, but you can have multiple ones. So this function right there, so when you do for paragraph in doc, so doc is our document, dot paragraphs, you're getting every paragraph of your Word document, okay? And what I'm doing here, I'm getting in every paragraph, and what I'm doing with it, what do you think? I add it to where? So what I'm doing with each paragraph from the Word file? Who can tell me? What do you think, guys, over there? Guys on the back, any ideas? Hello? Any ideas? So, I'm opening the document, I'm looping over to the paragraphs, and I'm adding them to where? The text, right? So this means that in this text variable right there, I'm going to add one by one every paragraph of our document, okay? So eventually, once I finish the for loop, the text variable is going to have all the paragraphs or all the text that needs to be translated. Okay? So now, once we exit the for loop, this means that the text already has all the information. Okay, so now just think about it. We have the text and we have the language to which we want to translate, right? What is going to be the next step? The next step will be to ask ChatGPT. So let's say if you go to the ChatGPT application that you ask questions, right? And if you want a text to be translated, what would you write? You would write something like, can you translate in Spanish, for example, the following text, and then you will print the text, right? So we're going to do exactly the same thing, but with code. We already have the language and we already have the text. Let's do that. Now, I write, just like we always do, response equals to client dot chat dot completions dot create. Okay, so this is the function with which we're going to talk to ChatGPT. Then I'll write model equals to GPT dash 3.5 dash turbo. After we add the model, we want to send now the question to ChatGPT, right? So I will do messages, and here I'm gonna specify firstly the row. So I will do row, okay? And here we're going to ask the question. Okay, so how should I ask the question? Come on, give me suggestions. It doesn't need to be exactly what's written in the application. I will ask it how you want me to. So what is the question? Content in the language, right? The language we want to translate to. All right, so I will need to do an f string here, right? So I can add some custom variable. So translate my content in target language. Okay. Okay, and then I want to display the content below, right? So I'll add some extra space. Okay. And after that, I will just put the text, right? So let's put the text. Okay, you're a professional language translator. Translate my content in wherever language is. Okay. I will also specify something. Okay, I will just do here dot, and I will tell him, give me the text, the translated text only, right? Because you know how sometimes ChatGPT is telling you also other things, additional information. So I don't want the ChatGPT to tell me, okay, thank you for giving this question, here is the translated text, right? You just want the translated text. So this is why I'm writing this additional information. Okay. So we have our message. That's good. And you can even see it that we wrote it in a different way comparing to the example you have in Blackboard. Okay. There is not like just one way of doing the things. You can be creative. This is why I ask you to do it yourself. Okay. And finally, we want to get a translated text, which we can do by doing translated text will be equal, and we're just gonna extract from the response our text. So I'll do choices at position 0 dot message dot content, and here is our translated text. And finally, what I need to do is simply to return the translated text. Once I return it, you can see that this function is going to return here the translated text to this variable, and then the translated text should potentially be displayed in our screen. Okay? Very simple architecture. So those of you that have a task in your assignment, let's say to display text or to access Word files, this is a very simple way to do it, and you can use this project as an example. Alright, so let's run that. I will choose some of the languages that you gave me. Let's say this one. Okay. Let's click browse. Alright. And let's choose some document. So I will use the one that I have here. Okay. I will open it. And let's see if this is going to work. It takes some time, of course, until we ask the API. And we can see that it works. Okay, so obviously, as you can see, I did not make as black some of the fonts, and this is why I cannot see it. Okay, covered in black. I think it is this one actually. But even with that, so who told me this language? You told me this language? Or who? Is it translated in the right way? Because you can understand, right? So it is good. Okay, so great. So the translation application works. And you can see that using AI, how easy it is really to do application like this one. Imagine the rest of the opportunities you have for your applications related to text. You can pretty much do absolutely anything. Right? You just created something similar to Google Translator.